Tucker Carlson is still in the news. Of course, he has a new show, so he's going to be in the news a lot. But yesterday, in fact, he was talking about the NSA spying on him, taking control or at least accessing his email and his text messages. And apparently they were investigating or doing something to try to get him off the air. At least that was his allegation. And so yesterday when we talked about this story, there were a lot of people on Twitter sort of laughing at Tucker. Oh, NSA doesn't care about Tucker. He's just a crazy cable news host, whatever. And we went through the history of surveillance, modern recent history of surveillance in this country, talking about PRISM, talking about X-Keyscore, talking about the Five Eyes Alliance, and all of these different surveillance tools and technologies that have been in place for a long time. So the question is, does anybody really think that they're not doing that anymore? Like if we're going to take a Tucker Carlson statement that the NSA is spying on him or the NSA statement saying, no, we're not spying on him, is that even a competition? Like, is there anybody that doesn't know where to fall on that equation based on everything that we've lived through? Okay, so we know where this is going. Tucker is doubling down on it, and we're going to get to some clips from him. He's telling us about a phone call conversation that he or his team had when they actually called the NSA to say, hey, you spying on me? I want an answer. And they tried to get up to the head director, and of course the director says, oh, not available. So we're going to take a look here. The NSA also came out with a statement. They released a 2-paragraph statement that I think was written by like a new intern who maybe is on summer break or something like that. But it's pretty bad. We're going to show you what that looks like. We're going to learn about conjunctive and disjunctive words or sentences. So that's going to be a ton of fun. But before we get into any of that, what does the Biden administration have to say about this? Because of course, it's kind of a big deal. We talk a lot about civil liberties here and making sure that the government is not overstepping their bounds just a little bit. And if you have the NSA and you have, intelligence agencies, many of them, 18 of them, in fact, that are a part of the DNI, 19 maybe now with the Space Force. Maybe that made it 18. I don't know. We have a lot of intelligence agencies trying to do things, I guess. And so they asked Biden and his team, hey, are you in fact spying on Tucker? Tucker's a U.S. citizen. There is no reason to spy on him unlawfully. You need a warrant. This is America still. So what's your position on this? Well, a reporter was on Air Force One as a part of the press gaggle over there yesterday. And so they asked Jenn Psaki about this. Here is that exchange.
Tucker Carlson said that the NSA is spying on him. Is the administration aware of any espionage or listening efforts on U.S. citizens by the NSA, and is Tucker Carlson one of them?
Well, the NSA, as I think you're well aware, I'm sure everyone's aware, everyone on this plane is aware, I should say, is an entity that focuses on foreign threats and individuals who are attempting to do us harm on foreign soil. So that is their purview, but beyond that, I would point you to the intelligence community.
Okay, so I don't know. Go ask the intelligence community. You are the press secretary, and so you interface, the White House, of course, interfaces with all of those intelligence agencies. But something was interesting here, right? She talks a lot about foreign soil. She talks a lot about individuals trying to do us harm on foreign soil. They focus on foreign threats and foreign individuals. And so this sort of sounded a little bit familiar to me, if you recall, right? We talked about this a lot here on the Michael Flynn saga. The idea being that Michael Flynn, as soon as Donald Trump was elected, during the transition, recall this, now Michael Flynn, has gone a different direction since this all happened, but back then, right, Michael Flynn was a part of the transition team on Trump's team, working on getting the new administration in place. And during that time, Flynn was having conversations with a Russian ambassador named Kislyak. What happened there? Well, the intelligence community, the same people that Jenn Psaki is telling us to go talk to, they were monitoring conversations about the foreign individual. They're focused on foreign threats. Of course, the Russian ambassador, Kislyak, is a foreigner. So, of course, the NSA, that is within their purview. That is within their jurisdiction, just like Jenn Psaki said. So why is Michael Flynn, somebody who's a U.S. citizen and an ex-military, star, somebody with a lot of credentials, a lot of history there who provided a great service to the country during that era of his life. And they're saying that they also have his conversation. So how can that happen? If the NSA and all of our intelligence communities are just supposed to be focused on the foreigners and the foreign soil, what are they doing listening to Mike Flynn and his phone calls that led to that entire case? What happened there? Well, because his conversation, even though the NSA was focused on the foreigners, he was talking to the foreigners. And so his conversations get swept up into that, right? We call it masking and unmasking. And we have this whole thing where when that happens, when a U.S. citizen's information gets swept up in these dragnets, that they get masked so we protect them and all that stuff. Well, the Obama administration wasn't really following the rules there. They were unmasking people to find out their identities just willy-nilly. Doesn't take, kind of like sending an email. Hey, who is this? Oh, it's Michael Flynn. So we know that the rules here are all sort of a joke. They kind of use these things to do whatever they want politically. So now, we're hearing that Jen's saying, well, foreigners, foreign soil, it's all foreign harm, foreign individuals, foreign threats, blah, blah, blah. Is she sort of acknowledging that, in fact, maybe they were listening to Tucker, but maybe Tucker was talking to a foreigner, just like Michael Flynn was? Flynn was talking to Viselyak, Russian ambassador. Maybe Tucker or Tucker's people are talking to some foreigners. They're journalists, they're news people. And so the NSA then, through the intelligence communities, all of their different, extensions, they all just sort of come to the conclusion, no, we can spy on foreigners. We just happen to also pick up Tucker on there. So when they come out there and they start making statements like this, it sounds pretty obvious. They're not actually denying much of anything. This is a statement from the NSA, okay, the National Security Agency. They posted this on Twitter, on their Twitter account. We're going to show you how terrible this statement is. It says, on June 28th, Tucker Carlson alleged that the NSA has been, quote, monitoring our electronic communications and is planning to leak them in an attempt to take this show off the air. Okay, so when you do legal analysis, or when you start to sort of analyze what people say and you have conversations about it, talk about this a lot here. One of the first things you want to do is identify the issues, identify the claims. What are we talking about? You got to get very clear on that. People think that this is very easy. It's actually not. The example that I use is sort of the contract example. And we're trying to identify where there was a breach of contract. So you might say, well, I entered into a contract with you, Rob, and you broke the contract. And so now we've got a problem. There's a breach of contract. And so we have to identify what the issues are. What was the exact breach of contract? Could be many things, right? It could be, well, you just didn't pay your bill. Or it could be that it's really a complicated transaction. I wanted X widgets and I need them delivered at this location by this time. They need to be packaged this way. They need to be on a truck, in certain conditions with air conditioning. I need them to be transported through this route so that, the air, whatever, all sorts of different reasons. And so if there is a breach of contract now, we got to be very clear of what we're talking about. What was it? Was it that I asked for widgets X, but you gave me widgets Y? Was it that I needed them here by 4 o'clock because I needed to get them on another boat by 5 p.m. and you got them there at 6? So it's not that we had the wrong widgets, it's that we had the wrong time and my whole thing screwed up. So now I don't need those widgets anymore. So now my damages are going to be different than what they may have been if there was some sort of a different type of breach. And so the point here, this can get complicated, obviously, but we're trying to decipher what the issue is. What specifically did Tucker say that the NSA is responding to? Okay, and we have to match them up. It's the same thing that we did with the Chauvin trial. Chauvin had 3 different counts, count 1, 2, and 3. So as we go through and present evidence, we present evidence for count 1, only for that count, right? Some of that evidence is not going to be applicable to counts 2 or 3. You see how it works. So now that we have that framework, what is the NSA saying? First of all, they're saying that Tucker is making the claim and they're going to be responding to the claim. So the claim from Tucker is 2-part, right? Monitoring our electronic communications is part 1. And then we see this word "and" here. So Tucker is making 2 claims. So you would expect them to make a response that addresses both claims. So number 1, of course, is monitoring. Number 1 is monitoring. And number 2 is an attempt to take the show off the air. 2 claims being made, and there's an "and." This is a conjunctive statement, meaning that both claims are being made simultaneously. And what does the NSA say to that? It says the allegation is untrue. Okay, so that's fine. So they're responding to both pieces. 1, no monitoring, and also no attempt to take the show off the air, right? That's how you would read that. They're lumping the 2 claims, monitoring and attempt to take off the air, into 1 claim, and they're saying the allegation is untrue. So they're responding to both claims. Then when they respond, you're going to see here, they're going to give us a conjunctive response. They're going to give us a sentence that is apparently addressing both of the underlying issues, but as we can see, it's not even remotely responsive at all. So it says Tucker Carlson has never been an intelligence target of the agency. Okay, well, he didn't say that, right? Did he say that in this quote at all? Did he say anywhere that I think that the NSA is making me a target of the NSA? No, he never said that one time. He's never been an intelligence target. That's great. It's good to know. But is he being monitored is a whole nother question, right? And they didn't answer that. So they're trying to sort of respond. They're taking this sentence, he's never been an intelligence target, and they're trying to make that responsive to the monitoring. He's saying, are you monitoring me? They're saying, no, but you're not a target. Okay, well, that doesn't answer the question. It's non-responsive. Then you're going to see Tucker had 2 claims, so they're going to give us an and here, right, to mirror him. So claim, denial, response to the claim. So this would sort of be a legal format. However, this is not responsive at all. So the NSA has never had any plans to try to take his program off the air. So, okay. So do you have any? Is there anything else going on, or do you have any other? He's not. It's not giving us any additional information. An attempt to take this show off the air. This allegation is untrue. Tucker Carlson never been an intelligence target of the agency. NSA has never had any plans to try to take his program off the air. Okay. So what else? NSA has a foreign intelligence mission. Got it. We target foreign powers to generate insights on foreign activities that could harm the United States. With limited exceptions, like an emergency, the NSA may not target a U.S. citizen without a court order that explicitly authorizes the targeting. So it's like, oh my gosh. So they acknowledge, right? This statement is just so terrible. I don't even really know where to start. We target foreign powers. Okay, got that. We know that. The question also, though, is, are you targeting other people in the United States? And as I mentioned with the Visselyak debacle, if you are targeting somebody else, are you also sweeping up Tucker's communications in the targeting of someone else? It's non-responsive. Okay. With limited exceptions, the next part then being, well, what exceptions? Are there any other exceptions? They say an emergency. So they're trying to give you a throwaway. Well, if there's an emergency, then we can go and access that stuff. Okay. So how do you define an emergency then? What is that? Is it a national security threat? Is it something that maybe Tucker might fall into or not? And what are the other exceptions? You gave us one that we can all understand easily, like emergency, but what about other things? Maybe they are, in fact, investigating Tucker. NSA may not target a U.S. citizen without a court order that explicitly authorizes the target. So to me, folks, this sounds as clear as a non-denial as anything, right? They're not denying anything. They're just saying, they could have come out. Nope, we're not monitoring Tucker. Nope, we're not... we have no involvement with Tucker. We have no idea what he's talking about. They didn't say that. They said, we had no plans to try to take his show off the air, and he's never been an intelligence target. They didn't say anything about actually monitoring, listening to anything. They're not denying anything that he claimed. Both of his statements have not been denied. All right, here's Tucker explaining it last night.
Now, last night on the show, we made a very straightforward claim. NSA has read my private emails without my permission, period. That's what we said. Tonight's statement from the NSA does not deny that. Instead, it comes with this non sequitur. In part, quote, Tucker Carlson has never been an intelligence target of the agency.
Great.
Okay, glad to know. But the question remains, did the Biden administration read my personal emails? That's the question that we asked directly to NSA officials when we spoke to them about 20 minutes ago in a very heated conversation. Did you read my emails? And again, they refused to say. Again and again. And then they refused even to explain why they couldn't answer that simple question.
Wow.
We can't tell you, and we won't tell you why we can't tell you. My emails. And the message was clear. We can do whatever we want. We can read your personal texts. We can read your personal emails. We can send veiled threats your way to brush you back if we don't like your politics. We can do anything. We're our own country. And there's literally nothing you can do about it. We're in charge. You're not. Orwellian does not begin to describe the experience. It was like living in China. But we should get used to it. Now that the Biden administration has classified tens of millions of patriotic Americans, the kind who served in the military and fly flags in front of their homes, as potential domestic terrorists, white supremacist saboteurs, we're going to see a whole lot more of this kind of thing. A whole lot more.
Yeah, you got to take him at his word on that, right? I'm going to presume that he called. I'm going to presume that they did not take his call. So it sounds to me like he's pretty assured of himself that he's onto something here. Now, Technofog, big fan of Technofog, of course. He's another lawyer out there writing under a pseudonym, and he came out here and he chimed in on this topic as well. He said this is a carefully drafted denial by the NSA, as there are 3 separate allegations within Tucker's quotes, right? So he actually broke them up into 3. To this, we ask a key question: which allegation is untrue? If the NSA is denying these things, which is untrue? They said all of it's untrue in their statement, but they're not giving us any specificity here. It says, is it untrue that the NSA has been monitoring Tucker? Monitoring. Yes or no? Is it that the NSA is planning to leak Tucker's communications? Yes or no? Or is it the NSA will try to take Tucker's show off the air? Yes or no? Here, the NSA is using vague language to mislead the public. The press will run this as a denial, but it's not a denial. Those who look closely will see something else. The NSA, while stating that Tucker has never been an intelligence target, does not categorically deny having his electronic communication. So something is up, according to Technofog. And I agree. I mean, it sounds like that to me. And this is typical government nonsense, right? You call and you say, hey, I need some information. Well, it's classified. We can't tell you about that. Well, why can't you tell me? Well, it's classified. Well, I need to know why, though. It involves me. It's my text, my emails. Yeah, but it's outside my purview, whatever. And Tucker's right. You know, they just sort of do whatever they want. We talked about this Five Eyes alliance yesterday between 5 different countries, and sort of, you know, there's been a lot of questions about that, but they just keep moving forward because they know the American people just kind of get bored with something and move on to the next thing, and they're just free to do whatever they want. Now, yesterday, we talked about a program called X Keyscore, which is kind of this back-end little terminal, essentially, like a user interface where you can just go in there and everything that's been gobbled up throughout all of the pinch points that we talked about yesterday are all now sort of being dumped into this one user interface. So you can, just like Google, right? You go into Google, type whatever you want, you find some information about it. Kind of can do the same thing with national security. Every text, phone call, email, video conference, everything you've ever done anywhere ever is now sort of being, you know, allegedly, if you think like I do, then it's all being gobbled up and it goes into a database somewhere. Now, you know, they don't tell us much about this at all, and they've got all these different ways that they manipulate the rules in the Constitution by sending stuff overseas and coming with these different alliances and only focusing on foreign agents and not U.S. citizens and blah, blah, blah. So let's take a look now at this article that came out yesterday, specifically talking about this program, right? This is a program that raises a lot of eyebrows because essentially what Edward Snowden was saying you could do is go in there, type in Robert Gruller, and you can see everything. Everywhere I've ever lived, every text message I've ever sent, everything I've ever downloaded, every website I've ever visited, everything. Automatically, because they are gathering the data, they're jacking into the skeleton of the internet. Everything that goes on the backbone, the pipeline of the internet, the NSA has inserted themselves at that base level. So everything goes through, essentially, they're able to sort of watch everything as it's flowing through the internet and just gobble it up. So they're organizing that into this program called X Keyscore. So an extensive surveillance program that was first announced by Edward Snowden in 2013 continues to operate with no judicial and limited congressional oversight. Where is my mouse? All right. So the article says here, it says that no judicial or limited congressional oversight despite its potential to capture communications, according to a privacy watchdog agency. So this was written by Ellen Nakashima on June 29th, and it was, coincidentally, right after we were talking about this. NSA X Keyscore program was the subject of a 5-year investigation by the Privacy and Civil Liberties Oversight Board. According to documents leaked by Snowden, the program existed for more than a decade. It allows analysts to use a Google-like search function across a vast database of internet traffic captured from sites worldwide to pluck out the emails, web browsing history, social media activity of specific people. The program relies heavily on the autonomous collection of massive data sets, an analysis driven by artificial intelligence, a Democratic board member appointed by Trump said in a statement. He partly redacted a statement that was released after it went through the declassification process. LeBlanc was among one of 5 board members to vote against approving the classified report on X Keyscore in December, saying that the board failed to adequately investigate or evaluate the collection activities. What most concerned me was that we have a very powerful surveillance program that 8 years or so after exposure still has no judicial oversight. Can you believe that? And what I consider to be inadequate legal analysis and serious compliance infractions, said LeBlanc. Folks, this is by the Washington Post, okay? This is not by Fox News, right, that might have some backing for Tucker. No judicial oversight, according to this guy. No legal analysis, no compliance policies. NSA officials, though, they push back. They say that they conducted appropriate legal reviews of the use of X key score. They said that the agency has protections to safeguard Americans' privacy. They pointed to a document that they wrote that outlines the rules. Okay, so former board chairman Adam Klein, Trump appointee, stepped down from the board. He said this board produced a detailed, comprehensive report and recommendations on the very complex program. The clarity of the description is going to enable Congress to ask hard questions about this program. So the program operates under a framework that was drafted by Executive Order 1233, which I think was signed in by Reagan, which, of course, when collection activities take place under 1233, they are not subject to oversight by the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court. Can you believe that? So it's actually just super easy for anybody to go and monitor Tucker. Don't even need it. It's not even complicated, according to the Washington Post. X key score still out there. No judicial oversight. In fact, they're preparing a report to send over to Congress. They don't care. Snowden told us all about this like in 2013, and Congress has still done literally like nothing. So this guy comes out, going to draft a report, give it to Congress, and they're just going to continue to kind of do whatever they want to do, because that's how it works now. All right, so let's get over to some questions. First one in the house is from Sharon Quidney. Says, hey, the KGB, the NSA, FBI, CIA, etc., they aren't spying on Tucker, is direct confirmation that they are. They are really trying to shut him down. And little Jenny's response is more confirmation. It's all Pravda. The sooner we understand that, the better we'll be able to deal with it. Tucker's somebody with a lot of weight, right? He's got a strong voice, so it would serve their interest well to make sure that he doesn't have that anymore. Jeremy Matrita says, I'm not an expert, but I'm a thinker. I would guess the Biden administration brought back jars of foreign soil from their last couple of trips so they can dump a spoonful here and there as needed. All right, so yes, thank you for that, Jeremy. You are a thinker, and I appreciate you being here. Foreign soil from their last couple of trips. Yeah, I know. All right, LT13 says, I bet Tucker is spying so I get it now, Jeremy. I get it. So it just clicked, right? You take the foreign soil that Biden and Kamala brought, and you go sprinkle some of that right on Tucker's driveway. And you say, oh, look, we're investigating foreign soil now. I get it, Jeremy. Took me about 30 seconds longer than need be, but I got it. We have, next up, we've got LT13 says, I bet the Tucker spying is the 2-jump rule from Tony Bobulinski and someone foreign shenanigans with Hunter. Yeah, it's like that. It's like we're all like 3 degrees of separation, right? You go Osama bin Laden, Putin, Tucker. There you go. Got it. So go tap Tucker's stuff, because he mentioned Putin on his show. Putin mentioned Osama bin Laden. Osama bin Laden took out the towers. So that's how we're going to investigate Tucker, right? It's okay. And there's no oversight, so they can do whatever they want. LT13 says, Sebastian Gorka said an agent he became friends with when he was in the Trump administration told him that they were being spied on, and the workaround was routing the internet through another country and back, and then it's legal. So like a VPN for, all sorts of stuff like that, right? And you could easily envision where it's not a government agent. So the way that I suspect that some of this stuff happens, at least with this foreign intelligence stuff, is they will use, so let's say the Five Eyes agreement is something that happens, and they have somebody like Tucker Carlson that the U.S. government knows that they can't go and investigate, but they are part of the Five Eyes alliance. And so the U.S. government is prohibited from investigating its own citizens. But what about another country, or what about another entity, or another foreign intelligence organization? Are they also precluded? Because what do they care about our Constitution for, right? They don't, right? The Chinese spy on our people all the time. We can't do anything about that, right? We just say, okay, well, it's the game of espionage, and we have a hard line in the sand. We say, nope, the Russians are the enemies. The Chinese are the enemies. And so we're going to make sure that our intelligence communities are robust and able to respond to their intelligence communities. And so you've got these two opposing forces that are adversarial, and you create some pretty strong divisions in terms of separation there, obviously. But what happens if and so obviously you understand that relationship, right? The Russians, the Chinese, they can, of course, spy on our people. That would all be done illegally, and it would be done illegally because it's adversarial, right? But we can't prosecute them because they're not citizens. They're not entities here, right? The only way we could really address that would be through war or through sanctions or through some of the same usual mechanisms that we see in place currently in the geopolitical arena. So now let's say, what if we had sort of a similar, let's say, a relationship with another country, like one of the ones in the Five Eyes, but we use the same concept that we can't really do anything about foreign intelligence spying on our people, right? Like the Chinese, we can sanction them, we can kind of, talk tough about it, but we can't really do much about it because our Constitution doesn't give us jurisdiction over their intelligence activities. Same argument could be made with some of these other foreign countries, right? Well, we really can't really dictate what the Australians do or the New Zealanders do. And if they want to investigate Tucker Carlson and they just happen to do so, and we happen to be in this Five Eyes alliance and they happen to share some information with us that maybe they got that would have been in a way that would have been illegal, but we didn't do it. We're just looking at this information. And so we're going to use that to maybe go look at these other things that maybe Tucker's doing, or just throw his name into X key score. Somebody does it. There's no oversight there. So you can see how these little things can work out, right? We have this relationship. And so we're not violating the U.S. Constitution. The Australians are. But because they're our friends, nobody really bats an eye about that. And there are other ways, like let's say like Tucker was really doing something bad, right? Or let's say there's a terrorist or somebody that they want to identify. Well, then the Australians, they don't give the big crime, like the evidence that they have about the big crime, to the U.S. authorities. They just say, oh, that terrorist is going to be over here at this date, time, and location, probably doing something else illegal. So if you happen to be there and you catch them in the middle of that illegal act, well, then that's going to open the door. You can go get a warrant. You can go seize their cell phones. You can go do all of this other stuff that will then reveal the underlying offense. So it's sort of like opening the door just so they can get their foot in there, and then that's going to crack open the shell, and all of the other investigatory powers that you have domestically here in the United States are now available. Now you can say, now we get a warrant, probable cause, arrest, impound, inventory search, all of that stuff as a consequence. But you need a way to crack that shell first, because the U.S. government can't come through and say, oh, well, we knew you were going to do that crime, and we got that information from your emails or from your text or from whatever server that we were not allowed to access. If a defense attorney found that, and we found out that they got that information unlawfully, well, then that all becomes fruit of the poisonous tree, and everything after that has to be thrown out. The case gets dismissed. But if they were able to independently come and verify that stuff, sort of corroborate it, and make the argument that they would have independently found that information anyways, and defense attorneys don't know any better because that did happen. They found the guy who was at the corner doing the thing, got into a fight, doing something stupid, and then they will use that as a mechanism to get into everything else that is lawful now, because it's on the basis of something that happened in the United States, and they can use domestic tools to carry that forward. So I know it's complicated and sort of a convoluted thing that I just described there, but I wouldn't doubt that that's happening regularly with the Five Eyes. So but I don't know. That's all speculation. I'm Not Gas says, Tucker, the NSA is spying on me. The NSA, we aren't spying on him. Even if we were, we would be allowed to, and someone could be spying on him. Maybe some of their spying landed on our laps, but I can't control what my friends give me, so forget about it, is what he says. Yeah, and that's exactly right? That's exactly, it's here. It came from the Australians. We have Want to Know says, didn't Tucker lose some packages a year ago too? I don't know. Did he? Like an Amazon package? Or, no, he did lose. That's right. Didn't Tucker? Was that Tucker? Somebody lost. Yes, that was Tucker. Tucker was, I think, sending. That might have been election-related stuff, if I recall. Something was stolen or something like that. You're on to. I can't remember what that is exactly, but you're onto something there. All right, we've got. Let's see. Oh my gosh, we got a lot of questions. Okay, so we have Want to Know said, did Tucker have any packages? We have Todd says, I guess Todd Trout is here. What's up, Todd? Haven't seen you in a while. Says, I guess Edward Snowden was right. The NSA knows more about you than you know about you. I think that's probably accurate. Scary, but I think that's probably accurate. I noticed this on Twitter the other day. I was on Twitter, And Twitter has this feature where they want you to follow topics, right? And so I never really use that function. But I said, okay, well, I like a little bit more stuff in my timeline. Let's see what topics it thinks I'm interested in. And I got to tell you, man, it was exactly right. Like every topic was like, yeah, I'm interested. Yep. Economics. Yep. Got that. Justice. Yep. Got that. Yes. Crypto. Got that. All of the topics. Every one of them. There was like a few of them that you could tell they just like threw in there just to see if you like it, right? I don't know what environment or something like that, right? Okay. So that was an interesting experience. I was like, Twitter knows me extremely well, scarily well. And I kind of didn't like that feeling, but that's just how it is now. We have Osak says, I did a FOIA request with the NSA and they did the same thing to me. I asked a very clear question and their answer wasn't even close to what I asked. Like, this is how they do business. Yeah. It's sort of the mind games make you think that you're not living in the same reality that they are. It's scary stuff. Soul Viking says, once it comes out that one of the agencies was in fact monitoring, surveilling Tucker, it will go back to the discussion of verbiage like Donald Trump and his assertion that there was wiretapping, which is in fact is synonymous with what they're doing. Yeah. So we'll play that word game, right? Tucker Carlson said that they were monitoring him. And so they'll come out and say, oh, no, we weren't monitoring. But, the NSA collects a bunch of data. And so it's all metadata. And so, yeah, there's some sort of slight acknowledgement, but ultimately making the blanket denial that they think serves them better. All right, we've got Jeremy says, logic would dictate that if Tucker wasn't the target, the other guy must be the target. Yeah, you're right? So but again, Tucker's not asking that question, right? We're not talking about targets. So you see what they did? They changed it to about being a target. Tucker never said he was a target. That's not what he's asking. He's saying, are you monitoring my stuff? And they say, no, you're not a target. That's not what he asked. He wanted to know, are you monitoring it? And they didn't answer that. But they get us all now then talking about the targeting. It's clever, right? Oh, well, is the NSA targeting Tucker? Well, no, they're not we're not talking about that. They want us to, but we're not going to allow that. We've got Jupa says, the NSA and the rest of the government is very capable and has spied on U.S. citizens. After what we saw these past years with the FISA courts, I have no doubt that the government has been weaponized against those that don't follow a certain ideology. I think you're right on that, right? I mean, we're seeing this, I think, directly in our faces. It's kind of a wild thing that's happening. Let's see what else we've got. Jackalaya is back in the house, says, does no one remember when Robin Williams referred to Facebook as a CIA front for data collection in one of his jokes? Comedy, the unheard truth. I think there's a lot to that, right? Because we were talking yesterday about PRISM and about the pinch points, sort of the choke points that the government would install on the back end of many of these companies, Google, Facebook, YouTube, all of them. And Facebook was right there at the start, right? One of the first ones out there. Everything that the government wants, you just get direct access to it. So, I mean, I would say that the CIA and FBI are certainly involved in all of those different things, of course. Jackalaya says, when many of these surveillance rules were put in under Poindexter, Reagan era, the intelligence agencies were compartmentalized in such a manner that they did not know what each other was doing. I think the Patriot Act changed that, and certainly the creation of Homeland Security did. Yeah, and now we have the Director of National Intelligence, which is sort of, I think, the clearinghouse for a lot of these different agencies. It's kind of the hub and spoke model. The ODNI, the Director of National Intelligence, is the hub. All of the different agencies are the spokes. We have many of them, and they're not really even good at what they do because they can't even protect the congressional building, apparently. So we got a couple more questions. Kareem165 says, any chance you could help with this? I am wondering if Canadians can work remotely for their Canadian employer while on vacation in Miami. Well, Kareem, that's a great question. If you're asking me if I can help with this, you must be looking for encouragement, and I encourage that. Canadians work remotely for their Canadian employer while on vacation in Miami. Yeah, I think so. I don't know why you wouldn't be able to do that. Sounds like a pretty reasonable thing to me. Last I heard, up in Canada, things were a little bit dicey up there. Are you still on lockdown over there? Can you get out of your house? Viva Frey over here was doing his Viva on the Street videos, and he was talking about like curfews and lockdowns all throughout Canada. And then I think they arrested one of their politicians for something. Yeah, Miami sounds way better than that, except just, low buildings, single stories, for the foreseeable future over there. All right, Gertjan Decker is in the house. He's chiming in from the Czech Republic, if I'm not mistaken. Says, when will we stop using the word conspiracy theory and move to the accurate fact-based theory? Yeah, I mean, it's true. It's like everything that used to be a conspiracy theory has like been proven, right? It's like, the Wuhan lab theory, escape theory, was always a big conspiracy theory for a long time. And in fact, people were thrown off the internet. Now it kind of looks like that's the truth. So I'm with you, Gertjan. I don't think there's anything wrong with actually thinking through some of the things we need to analyze. So there's a lot more to discuss there. Before we move on to the next segment, quick reminder, I am a criminal defense lawyer over here at the R&R Law Group. As you can see, we can help with all of these different types of criminal charges, things like felonies, traffic violations, drug charges, DUI offenses, and everything and anything in between. So if you happen to know anybody in the state of Arizona that needs help with a criminal case, we would love the opportunity to help. We offer all sorts of payment solutions, free case evaluations. We've got an amazing team of people here. We would just love the opportunity to help. So check that out if you know anybody that needs some help. And then if you don't, if you're looking for just some education, some information, I would invite you to go check out my law enforcement interaction training, which is available here at gumroad.com/Robert Gruler. This is a 2.5-hour course where we talk about the 1, 2, 3 of dealing with law enforcement. How do you deal with them? There's one rule. It's the 1, 2, 3 rule. And we also have 2 questions that the police are allowed to ask you, and then 3 responses that you can use if they don't ask you an allowable question. So it's the 1, 2, 3 rule. A lot of information on that over at gumroad.com/Robert Gruler. And I appreciate all of your support over there.